7, we're looking at rational functions. I mean, just normal fractions, right? And we can take any fraction and start reducing if we can find the GCF. Well, the same thing true is with rational expressions. We have rational expressions either multiplying or dividing it. We can take anything that looks like a quadratic here on top and we can factor it and factor the bottom and cancel out common factors, right? Canceling out the GCF. Same thing. So if you're not good at factoring, I would look up some videos of how to factor and try to get better at factoring. So looking at example 1 here, we got this quadratic at the top, so I can do cab up top. So I can take this one right here and do cab. So I got my A is 1, times that by my C, so my CA is negative 24, and my B is negative 2. So then I just ask myself, what times what is 24, but adds to negative 2. Since it's a negative CA, that means one of the numbers needs to be negative, right? So that'd be a negative 6 and a positive 4. So those are my factors, right? Because they match up there. So my factors are x minus 6 and x plus 4. Now, so usually we take these factors and we always divide them by our a, right? And sometimes those reduce and sometimes they don't. But remember, if I multiply this out, if I distribute this 2 times 2, 2 things times 2 things, I get 4 things and they reduce, that will get me back to here, right? So that is factor. That's as far as we can go. But here we don't have to divide by our a because our a is 1. But on the next problem we see right here, if we do cab on this one, our denominator, right? Cab, not cha, cab, CA, C times A is 2 times negative 8. But as I can see here, we can't do cab because that is a quadratic, but we can see that, hey, on the bottom here, I notice there's x's on all of those, right? So there's an x in each one, so I could factor out an x. So I factor out an x, and it looks like I could have even factor out a 2, but we'll hold off on that, okay? So if I just factor out an x, then I get 2x squared plus 6x minus 8. Now it's a quadratic in there. I have this x on the outside, which is fine. We'll just leave it on the outside right there. We're going to factor it. So now I can do my cab, my C times A. I get negative 16, and my B is 6. So I can ask myself, what times what is negative 16, but again adds to 6. So that would be what? 8 and 2. So an 8 and a negative 2 gets me to 6. So my factors would be x plus 8 and an x minus 2. But because now I have my a, I have to divide by my a. When it's other than 1, I need to divide. Now here, notice that it goes into both of those, and I get x plus 4, and I get x minus 1. Now that, because I divided by 2, if I multiply this out, I would get x times x is just x squared, but I need that 2. So since 2 went into both of those, that 2 needs to go on the outside, right? So now I have that x on the outside, but I also have this 2 as well. So that 2 is going to go out there as well, and then I'm left with x plus 4 and an x minus 1. Okay, so then I look for common factors, right? The GCF. So because these are multiplication, that means they're factors, right? So now we can cancel like factors because we're multiplying and dividing by the same thing, so those cancel out. So I get left with the reduced one, simplified form. That's why it's called simplified. X minus 6 over 2x, x minus 1. And I can leave it like that. And then it also asks, when is it undefined? Well, what can I never divide by, right? I can never divide by 0. So if I set each one of these factors, so this is my simplified form, I can set each one of these factors, 2x equal to 0. I can set x plus 4 equal to 0. And I can set x minus 1 equal to 0. And then solve this, I get x equals 0. This one I get x equals negative 4. Oops, negative 4. And the last one I get x plus 1, or x equals 1. So those are all my ones where it would be undefined, because if I plug in those numbers, I'd get 0 on the bottom, and you can't divide by 0. So simplified form, simplified, spelled that backwards, simplified form, and here are my undefines. So sometimes it just asks for where it is undefined, and I would just list those x's, right? Sometimes you want to say, oh, well, what can x not be? X cannot be 0, x cannot be negative 4, and x cannot be 1. That means, where is it defined? That would be everything but those three. So if I do like an interval, I can go from negative infinity up until -4, but I can't have -4, that's why it's parentheses. And then I can go from -4 to 0, but it can't be those were the parentheses. And then from 0 to 1, and then I can go from 1 to infinity, right? Meaning that'd be my domain, what I can use or what can I plug in for my x's. Everything but -4, 0, 1. Okay, so sometimes that's listed a different way. But to simplify it, we just, if it's quadratic, we just factor it using cab. If it's not quadratic, we look for the greatest common factor first, and then maybe it's cab. And then we can set our factors to 0 on the bottom to find out where it can't be. And then we just cross out common factors to simplify it.